she's actually hot for me. But
Now, the interesting thing about Jeremy is, because Jeremy is a more superficial person than Mark, is my contention, as the guy who plays Mark. So,
I'm not going to.
I'm aware this might be biased. But he has to have these women like Big Suze and Nancy, who are incredibly beautiful, in order to give him the illusion that he's deep.
Yes.
And in fact, he's just noticed that he fancies someone a lot.
And
he's telling himself that's
like
his soul
dog.
aching.
Yeah.
And it's just his cock.
It's just his cock aching.
Whereas Mark, anything, the sight of a Kit Kat on a radiator could cause him to cry.
Yeah. What, because he likes Kit Kats?
He likes Kit Kats. He's thinking, come winter, the heating will go on.
I'll need that.
It'll melt.
Sugar's got it in for the short guy.
Fine, well, if you want to watch it, then come and find us, or I'll see back.
And I think this is one of the scenes where the fact that Mark and Sophie's relationship is based on nothing more than laughing over a photocopier begins to become clear. They've never really had anything in common, except neither of them particularly likes JLB credit, which is something they'd have in common with most of humanity. But I like the fact that
Mark doesn't like whiskey, and I sometimes think
whiskey drinking.
I think I'm the only person who doesn't like whiskey, but at least I've got that in common with Mark.
I don't really like whiskey.
I don't get it about whiskey.
But there's something.
What's this whole whiskey thing?
There's something heroic about it. That's definite.
Gotta get my thoughts straight. Well, he's an idiot, but he's my idiot.
This slightly reminds me of the bit in Series 2 when Jeremy phones Superhands and sees himself being busied.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark nearly sees himself being busied, but
That's a very cruel moment.
Yeah.
Superhands busies him and laughs.
Mark would expect to be busied.
Yeah.
So
He has
would hurt him a lot
He
less.
has the whole demeanour of a man who expects to be busied.
But he's damned if he's not going to leave a message.
What's going on, Jeremy? What have you done to the room?
Now, I had shingles at this part of the shoot, which is a very unpleasant condition caused by the dormant chickenpox virus in your spine attacking a nerve root.
You always have to have diseases that sound like they come from the 18th century. I mean, didn't you have gout or dropsy in the previous series?
No, I've never had gout or
Sciatica.
dropsy. I have had sciatica, which Premiership footballers get sciatica, Rob.
I only have cool diseases like VD.
yeah, you've got AIDS, perhaps the coolest disease in the world.
I'd just like to reassure any members of my family who are listening to this, I do not have AIDS.
And
it's fine.
I didn't wish to diminish the suffering of the people with AIDS by saying it's cool. I hoped in some way to lighten the load.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if I succeeded. But no, shingles is pretty unpleasant. And it's also a form of herpes, which actually makes it sound a bit glamorous and more like a Rob
If
disease.
you just called it herpes.
But it's not sex herpes, it's dormant childhood disease in spine. There are probably more fun ways of having it. I wouldn't know,
But you didn't have it. You had quite a mild dose, hence the fact that you're standing up and doing a job.
Yes, it can be really nasty. I also had extremely expensive antivirals prescribed to me.
Well, this is the one night shoot that we did for this series, and it was a long and not actually massively cold night, but we were just very nervous that we wouldn't be able to get it all done before the sun made an unwelcome appearance.
Yes, because we're shooting sort of in summer, which means there's less night, as scientists will confirm. This is in a nice field somewhere in the Chilterns. And the weird thing about a night shoot, I always think, because it's done like a day, so you turn up at 7 in the evening and have
a
breakfast.
weird breakfast.
And then the weirdest time is when it's sort of 1:30, 2 a.m. and you're with 30 or 40 other people having lunch in a bus in the dark.
That's
and
a
you
pretty
kind of
low
think,
ebb
It
for me.
feels it's a low ebb, but it's also, I think, assuaged by by a deep oddness.
Yeah.
It feels post-apocalyptic. The rest of the world has been destroyed, but we are, damn it all, still going to have lunch.
Muddy-mindedly having lunch at 2 in the morning.
And in the knowledge you've got to work on for another 4 or 5 hours.
Would this be a time to begin to mention the great cow debate and whether cows are allowed to have points of view?
That would be an excellent thing to mention.
I remember it being a massive a debate that blew all other Peep Show debates out of the water.
What the problem was is that there were long scenes in the dark of Mark and Jeremy just talking to each other, and people thought that wouldn't be visually particularly interesting, and it probably isn't. But you think, how do you establish where they are in relation to each other? We need someone else's POV, but if you have someone else's POV, then that implies there's someone else there, in which case they'd go, help, how can we get home? So could we have a cow's POV, is the question. And maybe that shot is a cow's POV.
Yeah, that's a little cheating shot there, but we did honestly think about having a cow that they see, and then we jump into the cow's head, but basically decided that animals don't get to have POVs eventually.
Yeah, because we don't know actually what things would look like to a cow. Yeah.
And if suddenly you're looking, do cows speak English?
And the cow certainly wouldn't be able to understand what we were saying.
Through a cow's point of view, do we start mooing?
Yeah.
So anyway, the cow went out. But anyway, I think it just about sustains because the writing's very good, and we get to vaguely stand in the right place and say the words.
Also, I think
very much our technique with Peep.
Yeah, I think it looks nice. All the darkness and the grass with the supposed moonlight that's actually done with electricity.
It's actually quite a bright moon that night, but you know.
But I think it's good, and it doesn't look like anything else in the series. So, I found the whole thing quite epic.
I love the whole.
Then I was high on antivirals.
Of course you were. I was just sticking to my anti-VD drugs that actually give you a weird kind of sick buzz in themselves. I love all the stuff about what?
We're further making light of.
You said AIDS. I was talking about VD, which is like an old-fashioned.
We all knew what you meant.
If I'd said STD, that would be bad. Anyway, I love the idea, as I was saying about Peep Show, that Jeremy suspects
You're just talking about syphilis, because that's
always...
knockabout.
Well, I don't know.
That's fun. They've got syphilis in Carry On films.
Yeah.
I don't think they do.
Anyway, I like the idea that Jeremy suspects that Mark's always wanted to ration him. I think that's funny.
I think that's funny. I think it's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's actually one of the... Jeremy, in many cases, is an idiot, but I do think he does really understand Mark. Certainly better than Mark does.
It's nice when they're sort of on the same side. I'm sure we've said this in other wanking on commentaries before, but, you know, so often they're kind of opposed to each other, and then when they have to get out of a situation together, that's a sort of refreshing thing.
I mean, it's brilliant and everything, but I was just wondering...
I agree.
Not doing it?
Not doing it. But
Ooh,
that's what this whole weekend's been about. I saved for 3 months for the Megadeal vouchers.
No, obviously, and after all that clip...
Yeah, and this is nice, because this is Jeremy actually giving Mark some quite sensible, mature advice.
Yeah.
It just shows what a low ebb his life's got to, that he has to get that from Jeremy.
I'm obsessed with it.
I think we shot these scenes more or less in order, didn't we? So this was towards the end of
the night. Yeah.
I watched the scene and have a sort of muscle memory of relief. I don't know which muscle it was, but I was looking forward to relieving. But yeah, no,
Your acting muscle.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it gets terrible. It aches something terrible.
Yeah.
Going, but you know, she's funny. Although now I wonder whether she really was